This is more Amano shrimp than you can shake a stick at. And for me, this is just a normal morning. I just dropped some food in here for these Amano shrimp. And as you can see, they're dogpiling it. But I thought about it and I was thinking that you would like to see this. That's right, because breeding Amano shrimp is something that not a lot of people do. And it's not very often that you get to see a site like this. It's not very often that anyone is showing tons of Amano shrimp, tons of baby Amano shrimp dogpiling on food like this. And in this particular grow out, I've got some wild type baby Amano shrimp. There's obviously some sun orange Amano shrimp, and you'll notice some of them are a little more red than others. But for the most part, we've got some sun orange Amano shrimp, and we might also spot some of the baby snow Amano shrimp in here as well. And the food that I'm feeding them this morning is Fluval Bug Bites. And it is the Pleco formula for medium to large fish. So it's kind of the best way I can describe the food, since it's kind of hard to see with all these shrimp dogpiling on it, is it kind of looks like a little piece of macaroni, like a little solid piece of macaroni. They're kind of curved. Now I'm going to drop a second piece in, and I'm going to try my best to drop it in a little bit closer to the camera. But you know how that goes. It's falling down, should be in frame. There we go. That was actually pretty good. So that gives you an idea. And this is a insect larva recipe fish food. I feed my adult Amano shrimp and my grow out tanks with a variety of different foods. And one of the fish foods that I often use are the Fluval Bug Bites. And I personally really like the Fluval Bug Bites. I don't mean I'm tasting them, but I mean when I smell the actual food, it doesn't smell offensive. It smells decent. There's no foul odor, and that's because it's not based on dead fish. A lot of food that you get these days has fish meal in it. Not the end of the world, not a big deal. That's a common thing that's used in fish food. But the thing I like about Fluval Bug Bites, and no, this is not a sponsored live stream, but the thing that I do like about Fluval Bug Bites is they're bug based. And I assume that if they smell non-offensive, they're probably pretty good for your fish and your shrimp. I know my fish and my shrimp love all of the different types of Fluval Bug Bite food that I feed them. But let's talk about what's in this. So we have dried black soldier fly larva is the #1 ingredient before salmon. So I think that's why it has a non-offensive smell. And I've noticed that about a lot of shrimp foods don't have like a fish meal as the primary ingredient. But a lot of fish foods will have either like a shrimp meal or krill meal or fish meal as the first ingredient. And it just kind of gives them a little bit of a foul, fishy aroma. One of the most offensive smelling fish foods that I've recently tried is the Aquarium Co-op Magic Small Fish Feed. If you've ever tried the Magic Small Fish Feed, boy, does it stink. It stinks. And the #1 ingredient on the Aquarium Co-op Magic Small Fish Feed, I believe, if I remember correctly, is krill meal, which explains why it kind of smells like dead shrimp. So this Fluval Bug Bites, which I should say, the Magic Small Fish Feed, the shrimp eat that just fine. It's not like they don't like it. But as, you know, the aquarist who has to smell this stuff, when I go to feed it to my aquariums, I prefer for it to not be offensive when I open the package. So this Fluval Bug Bites, again, it's a bug-based food, and we've got black soldier fly larva before salmon. So we've got the bugs as the number one ingredient, then wheat, green peas, potato, dicalcium phosphate, alfalfa nutrient concentrate, calcium carbonate, DL methoane, lecithin, chlorine chloride, L-lysine, vitamin E supplement, and the list goes on. There's vitamin B, beta carotene, rosemary extract, riboflavin, copper sulfate, and a bunch of other good stuff. The crude protein is 32%, so that's great. And again, this is the Fluval Bug Bites Pleco formula, and the reason that I originally tried the Pleco formula is because I knew it would be fast sinking and it would be a good food to get past the celestial pearl danio and rice fish in this grow out tank and down to the shrimp. We may see the occasional fish come in and try to pick at the food, but for the most part, when there's this many shrimp dogpiled on that food, the fish don't really mess with it. But I wanted to share this visual with you this morning because, again, it's just something that you don't normally see on any social media, and that is the fruits of breeding a mono shrimp. This is a large amount of shrimp, and as you can imagine, if you were breeding a mono shrimp at home like I am, this could equate to dollar signs per shrimp. You could trade these shrimp for plants. You could trade them for other types of shrimp. There's a lot of shrimp keepers out there that would gladly trade Neocaridina shrimp for some colorful Amano shrimp or even some wild Amano shrimp. You know, I think one thing that us aquarists all have in common is at some point in time, if not all the time, we have algae in our aquariums. If you have a planted tank or if you just keep artificial plants, algae finds a way, right? And so these Amano shrimp are known as the best algae eaters in the cleanup crew. There's no debate to that. So I really think that breeding them is something that's misunderstood in the hobby. It gets explained as being this difficult thing. And so if you check out my channel, if you haven't yet, I show a bunch of different ways that I breed these colorful Amano shrimp in yellow, white, orange, and red. And I do it using low-tech, low-effort methods. And this is the result. Now, if I had bigger grow-out tanks and bigger larva tanks with salt water, I could probably have 100 times more shrimp. I take my baby Amano shrimp when they're first born, and I just have a 10-gallon tank with salt water in it, and I have a 5-gallon tank with salt water in it. So without a doubt, I'm losing some baby Amano shrimp just because of the size of my saltwater grow out. It's not going to support all of the, 600, 800, 1,000 baby Amano shrimp that are born. It kind of self-regulates and I end up with a few hundred, which, hey, is perfectly fine for me. Because as you can see, I'm constantly having to find places to stuff Amano shrimp. A tank like this with this many Amano shrimp, it's kind of hard to tell scale here on the video, but a lot of these are super, super small. The biggest one that you see is still a juvenile, that big red one right in the middle. That's still a juvenile shrimp. I mean, it's not an adult size. So pretty cool stuff. And when you have this many Amano shrimp, algae does not stand a chance. This 40-gallon aquarium, when I'm in between batches, like sometimes I'll take a break and I won't have this many Amano shrimp in there. Or if I just have little teeny tiny baby Amano shrimp, I will start to accumulate some algae. Let me fix this focus. But I do have in some of my tanks, I do have hair algae. I will have powdered algae pop up here and there. I'm lucky enough to not really have blackbeard algae. But I do, like any aquarium, have algae that pops up here and there. But with this many Amano shrimp, and there's a lot of them that are out of frame, um, algae just literally cannot take hold because they're constantly looking to eat. So that's something I want to talk about today is feeding your Amano shrimp. Something you can do with Amano shrimp that may not necessarily work with a lot of different other kinds of shrimp is when you look at these Amano shrimp, you can see their digestive tract. You can see that solid color line going down the top of their back. And so that means if you feed them a different color food than the color that is currently going down their digestive tract, that'll give you a great idea of how long it takes them to actually process the food and poop it out. And you'll be surprised to know that it's really a fast process. It doesn't take long for these Amano shrimp, once they start eating food, for them to actually process it and start pooping it out. So they're very high, what's the word? They have a very high appetite and a very high metabolism. So in your planted aquarium, they will eat your plants if you don't feed them well enough. Now, there's very few types of plants that either they don't like the taste of, or maybe they're too thick for the Amano shrimp to really munch down on. But remember, these are Caridina multidentata, meaning that they have little teeth. And that's what helps them eliminate tougher algae than most Neocaridina shrimp are able to eat. Not only that, but they're much bigger when they're fully mature than a Neocaridina shrimp. So it looks like we've got a Bloody Mary loach there that's creeping in, looking for some food. That's a strange fish there. Fairly popular when they first came out is the Bloody Mary loach. I don't think that the Bloody Mary loaches have quite taken on the way the hobby would like for them to have. A lot of these new specialized loaches that have come into the hobby, some of them priced a little higher than others, have been kind of popular with smaller parts of the niche, but none of them, I don't think, have really taken on in a much of a commercial sense. And something that I've noticed on the Bloody Marys in particular is when they first came in from a long hiatus of being imported. I think they imported them once or twice on little special shipments in a couple places in the United States a couple years ago. And then suddenly, I believe it was last year, they started appearing again at some fish stores. And when they first started appearing again, you would see them for around $40. And what I noticed recently, I was browsing through some listings, just kind of checking in on what's popular in the hobby. And there's a lot of places that have them on sale. I've seen them as low as like $20. So definitely some places are trying to get rid of some older stock of the Bloody Mary loaches. So if that cool looking loach there is something you're interested in, now is probably a great time to pick one up while a lot of places do have them on sale. I've had mine for a while and I can tell you they're fairly easy to keep, but like with any loach, obviously you want to have some sort of biofilm, or at least at minimum algae wafers and that type of thing, some kind of sinking food that they're able to get to. And I just have 2 in this 40-gallon aquarium. And with this many Amano shrimp in here, as you can imagine, there's not a whole lot of biofilm for them to eat. But they do fine because I feed the tank relative to the amount of shrimp I have. So those loaches are typically able to come in and munch right alongside the shrimp because these shrimp are messy eaters. So there's little bits and pieces of food kind of flying all over the place whenever they get to eat. And I also feed a lot of powdered food. And the powdered foods really make their way all throughout the aquarium. because I do have 3 side mounted sponge filters. I'm not sure what you would call them exactly, the suction cup type sponge filters that mount to the wall of the aquarium. And they've got those adjustable heads on them so you can direct the flow. So there's a decent amount of flow in this aquarium, and it really kind of spreads out any powdered food that you might feed. But I this morning didn't feed a powdered food. Instead, I put these sinking bug bites Pleco formula, I don't know what you call it, a pellet or a wafer from Fluval in here this morning, so that we would get this nice dog pile action and you'd be able to see this rare view of tons of baby Amano shrimp, just not something you see very often. So you'll notice there's no yellow babies in here. I'm going to keep all of the yellow babies separate when it comes to raising the larva. I've dedicated 1 saltwater grow out just to yellow Amano shrimp. And when it comes to actual grow out for juvenile shrimp that have transferred back into freshwater and are growing up like a regular Amano shrimp, I'm dedicating 20-gallon tall. I have 2 of them that I'm dedicating for the yellow Amano shrimp. I'm going to keep them completely separate. And the point for that, and I've mentioned this in a couple videos now, is I strongly believe that the path to a new color Amano shrimp, like a solid green or maybe a solid red or solid blue, is going to be breeding the most yellow to yellow Amano shrimp together. I think these, and you can tell obviously here in the video, these sun orange or the red Amano shrimp, they're a variation of the wild type shrimp. So they've got the same exact markings as a wild type Amano shrimp. They're just kind of an orange variant. So the base color of the sun orange is like an orange shade, and then the markings are actually a deep red. And on the snow Amano shrimp, they're actually a leucistic mutation. So that's essentially an albino that has black eyes instead of red eyes. So those leucistic snow Amano shrimps, the white ones, if you breed those together long enough, the most likely color mutation that's going to bleed through on top of that leucistic mutation is yellow. And so that's how we've gotten the lemon yellow Amano shrimp. So because those yellow Amano shrimp already have that color leak unlocked in their genetic code, I personally believe that that is the fastest path to a new color. Now, am I right? You know, nature can never fully be predictable. I'm just going off, studying how genetics work and things like that. But anyone can do this, and anyone can be the first person to come up with that new color Amano shrimp. I'm not trying to be in any kind of race, but I figure if I'm already breeding Amano shrimp, it's not really that I'm trying to get a new color. I'm just breeding Amano shrimp, right? And so naturally, with the yellow Amano shrimp, you're going to want to keep the most saturated, deep yellow shrimp in your breeding colony and sell the lighter colored yellows or the ones that look more faded. So it just happens to be that that's the best way to get a new color. Now, how long will that take? How many thousands of baby shrimp am I going to have to breed before I get one that's a little more green than yellow? I don't know. I have no idea. That's one of the cool things too about when genetic mutations or genetic lines are kind of new, is that things are still pretty unpredictable. So I'm going to stick a piece of tubing in here, I think, or maybe I'll use this net upside down. And I'm going to move these pieces of food a little closer to the camera because the shrimp are starting to take it away, as they often do. Amano shrimp are not shy. They will take food from your fish. They don't care what kind of fish it is. They'll bully your fish unless your fish obviously is big enough to eat it, which most of us with community aquariums, we've got those 1 to 3 inch fish, and these Amano shrimp, the mature ones can get well over an inch, 2 inches. some of them over 2 inches. So they're not intimidated by fish. They will do what they need to do in order to get that food. So let's zoom in here a little bit and get a little closer of a view if we can. And you should be able to see some of these wild type Amano shrimp that I've got have like a blue tint to them. I've tried to selectively breed the wild type Amano shrimp to hold back the more blue tinted ones, but to be honest, I mean, there's really not a lot to try to cull out of a wild type Amano shrimp because they just have the markings, and from what I've seen, they kind of have that bluish base color, or they may have a little bit of a more yellow base color, or some of them might have a little bit more of a clear base to them. But there's really not a lot as a breeder for you to try to, you know, I guess selectively breed there. But yeah, these Amano shrimp are a lot of fun to breed. It's not hard at all. Once you learn how easy it is to mix salt water, which just is literally following the instructions on the back of the bag of aquarium salt. It's not any more complicated than that. I don't remember right offhand. I think it's a cup of salt per, I don't even want to say. Let me look on the bag here. But I like to use Instant Ocean aquarium salt. You can find it at any big box store, or there's a pretty good chance if your local fish store sells saltwater stuff that they'll carry Instant Ocean. But really any marine salt is what you want to use. And it looks like here it says for 1.5 pounds creates 5 gallons of salt water at a specific gravity of 1.022. And it says for smaller amounts, where does it say it on here? Somewhere on here it talks about smaller amounts, and I think you measure it by the cup. So that's how I do it. I don't measure it by weight, although you can definitely do that. It says, oh, here we go. 1/2 cup of Instant Ocean sea salt for each gallon. Very, very easy stuff. So 1/2 cup of Instant Ocean sea salt. I use RO water, which typically has a TDS of below 10 from the place that I get mine from. It's one of those machines you just put coins in, and you can either get 1 gallon of RO water or 5 gallons of RO water. So we use that as drinking water. My tap water here is typically over 1,000 TDS. So that's one big thing. One great reason to not listen to gurus on YouTube. You find yourself listening to these gurus on YouTube that speak for all aquariums on the planet, and they make a video about TDS and why you shouldn't care about TDS. They have no idea what your TDS is. If you have TDS like mine, on a bad day is 1,500 TDS. Breeding shrimp, or even raising or keeping shrimp in 1,500 TDS water, is not going to go well for you. I just wanted to show you guys what a literal ton of Amano shrimp babies look like attacking some food. Hopefully you like that. Make sure you check out my channel if you're interested in getting tips on how to breed these Amano shrimp, and we'll see you later.